Hello, and welcome to Leap into Business, a Leap Junction workshop which will cover all you need to know about starting your own company. Now, before we start, if you don't have a fully formed business idea yet, make sure that you head back to our ideation presentation that comes before this one in our workshop series and have a look at that. It will really help you to flesh out an idea that you may want to start carrying forward. Also, make sure to download the worksheets associated with this workshop so that you can follow along as we work together. And please feel free to watch all the way through and then do the work, or you can pause, do the work, and come back as needed. So before we jump into the workshop today, just to give you a better understanding of a little bit about me, my name is David Ouellette, and I am the main business advisor at Leap Junction. I'm a graduate of Fanshawe College, St. Clair College, and the University of Windsor. And I have spent a lot of time building up my skills over the years in business management, marketing, and consulting. I have over 15 years experience as an entrepreneur. And if anyone would like to hear more about my entrepreneurial journey and my story, I would love to have a chat with you anytime. You can book an appointment with me through our Leap Junction website. Just select a time that works for you, and you can ask me any questions that you like about my entrepreneurial journey, and we can also get started on making your entrepreneurial journey a reality. So what are we going to be talking about today? So this is our agenda for the presentation. This is going to be a very high level presentation because there's a lot to cover about, getting into business. What we're going to focus on the first half is talking a little bit about failure, a little bit about what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and what being an entrepreneur is actually like. We're going to go into a little bit of business planning, and then lastly, a little bit of the legal components around company structure and how to legally start a business in Canada. By no means does this cover everything involved with starting a business. So I definitely do recommend after watching this that you book an appointment with one of our advisors at Leap Junction, come and see us, and we can make sure to, that you have all of your bases covered. So let's jump in. We're going to talk first a little bit about failure. And I know that's a terrible thing to start with, but I think it's good to just get it out of the way first. So before we talk about that, I'm assuming at this point, if you've come to this presentation, you're thinking of starting your own business, which means that I would like to say congratulations to you, because by being part of this workshop, you have already started and have begun the process of setting yourself up for success. Now, hopefully this is the start of an exciting new venture in your life, and one that you'll look back on years from now as possibly one of the best decisions you have ever made. Now, of course, there's a lot of thinking to be done before we can actually get out there and start a small business of our own. Because starting a small business can be, one of those huge life-altering events. It takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of time and patience and passion to be successful. And owning a business means, that you're typically focused on that business 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It takes a big priority in your life. And if you want it to be successful, you're certainly going to have to work at it. And it's important to be prepared for the ups and downs that will inevitably come your way. Many people, approach entrepreneurship with the hope that a good idea and some hard work make a business. However, it is important to be realistic. Yes, hard work and good ideas are important, but there is no magic recipe for success. And it's certainly going to take a lot more than optimism to take your business idea from idea to reality. And the truth is that businesses of all shapes and sizes fail. And a good idea is still just a good idea. So this is what brings us to our first topic, failure. This looks like a great number, right? 96% of small businesses manage to survive past 1 year. However, only 85% survive to 3 years, and only 70% actually make it to 5 years. So that means that approximately 7,000 businesses in Canada exit the marketplace every year. So what we want to talk about is, how do you actually avoid being one of those 7,000? Well, there's lots of different ways, that you can avoid it. But here are kind of 4 key areas that can really help set you up for avoiding failure. The first one is to ensure that you have a business plan. Now, according to Industry Canada, the main reason why most small businesses fail in the first few years is poor planning, poor execution, and poor vision. Every new business needs a business plan because it is a blueprint of how you will develop your new business backed by research to determine if the business idea is actually viable. The business plan is your blueprint for success. If you wanted to build a house, I'm sure you wouldn't just walk over to a random empty lot and start nailing boards together, right? Starting a business without a plan is just as risky. The next way that we can set ourselves up for success is making sure that we do some market research first. We need to understand, is there actually a market for our business? Will people pay for what I'm offering? And if you answer yes before you've identified any customer segments or even Googled for similar products or service ideas in your area, well, you're getting risky. And you'd be surprised how many people move forward without doing just those things. Market research isn't about you. It isn't about your idea. It's about your customers and whether or not you've been able to identify where they buy, what they buy, how they buy, and if they'll buy what you're actually selling. It also helps to make sure that you understand the landscape of your industry and understand it well. Making sure that you know your competition is key. Avoiding competition by pretending they don't exist or that thinking you solve every problem better than they do is not setting yourself up for success. We always say, don't be an ostrich by sticking your head in the sand. You need to know your customers and you need to know your market just as well as you know your business. You cannot avoid these things, right? So learn from the success and failures of others by conducting competitor research, by conducting customer research, and by conducting industry research so that you're ready and prepared with the knowledge to feel confident that you can move forward and avoid failure. Now we look at a little bit about financial planning. Before starting a small business, you certainly need to figure out how much money you're going to need to live and how much money is needed to run the actual business. You cannot ignore your finances. You cannot ignore the money and just assume that somehow enough of it will come in each month because your idea is the best idea that has ever been. You cannot ignore your bills either. So it's very important that you, as the business owner, as the founder, have a firm understanding of all the financial aspects of your business model. This includes the startup costs and capital costs, your cash flow demands, sales projections, your expenses, and the operating income that is needed to make this business run. The last way that we're going to talk about avoiding failure is business feasibility. Now, every entrepreneur hopes that their idea is feasible, but hope is not fact, and declaring you're a business does not make it so. This is the part that's about you, and you have to get it right or your business model can be doomed. Too many people leap into selling their product or service without even considering the answer to this basic question. Can you actually make a profit? If not, it might just be a hobby or a passion project, not a business, and that's okay. But we need to understand whether or not you can make money as a business, whether or not there's people out there that will pay for what you're offering. Be realistic to avoid a lot of time and money spent on something that can just never grow and never scale. Ultimately, it is up to you to determine and decide if your idea is worth pursuing or investing in. But make sure you're realistic here. So remember, these are the 4 kind of general steps to avoiding failure. Your recipe for success is ensuring that you have thought about all of these things before you start spending too much time and especially too much money developing an idea that may never have legs to work in the market. Later in the presentation, we'll come back to these factors to get you started on your idea. As we work through this presentation and the remainder of our workshop, I want you to remember this statement. Businesses that fail to plan, plan to fail. This means that failure is actually avoidable. Planning is always harder than doing. It takes more brain work, it takes more time, it requires delaying that, instant personal gratification. But the cliche is true. Businesses that fail to plan, plan to fail. So please do not let this happen to you. And speaking of you, now we're going to work on your idea and ensure that you're ready to actually start a business. We're assuming at this point that you've come up with your idea in our ideation workshop, or you have brought your own idea with you today. If you're realizing that this idea isn't perfect, or maybe it might be a hobby, we can always brainstorm some new ones or connect with us to talk it out. But until then, we carry on. So the first thing we have to do is ask ourselves, are we ready? Wanting to start a business and being ready to start a business can be two very different things. Many of us get very excited when we have a really awesome idea full of potential. And it can be very difficult to quiet our brains as the idea swims around and develops. And for many of us, it becomes an itch that you just have to scratch. But how do you actually scratch that itch? How do you go from idea to actually creating a successful, profitable company? When we start a company, from scratch or make it grow, the first thing we have to do is start making some decisions. There are literally thousands of large and small tasks to perform before our vision can actually be realized. So the first and most important step is to make a decision of whether or not starting the business is right for you. Not your friend, not your sister, your brother, your coworker, your parents, or whoever else might be trying to tell you that you should start this business or maybe not start this business. You need to ask yourself, what do you really want to do and why do you want to do it? And be honest here. Take some time to really think about this. The old saying, do what you love, is certainly still sound advice. We need to have passion for what we do to fuel our commitment and give us the energy you need for the long haul. That's important. What is your burning desire? And how can you shape it into a reality that will provide you with both satisfaction and profit? That is another question to answer. And it's the main question we need to understand when we're starting a business of our own. The why is always, always, always very important behind what we are doing. If the answer is, I'm doing this because I want to be a millionaire, you may need to really rethink that. Because the odds of becoming a millionaire off of your idea, it's a long runway, and there is no straight path to success here. So making sure that you understand your own why and what is really driving that is a good place to get started here to find out whether or not you're ready to be an entrepreneur. There's a famous TED Talk called How Great Leaders Inspire Action by Simon Sinek, which you may have seen. If you haven't, I definitely recommend you check it out. In this TED Talk, Simon tells us that that most successful brands and companies lead with their why first. And in there, he elaborates on the fact that, people do not buy what you do, but rather they buy why you do it. This is very important to understand. A lot of buying is emotional, and people want to be more invested than just the features and benefits of what you're offering. They want to understand what you stand for. They want to understand more about you. They want something that they can sink their teeth into and buy into. So being able to articulate your why is not just a silly question we do to determine whether entrepreneurship is right for you or not. It's also a fundamental part of starting to actually attract customers in the future. It's a key part of what you will do to develop your marketing strategy. So take the time to ask yourself, why do you want to start your own business? And make sure, as I said before, to be very honest here. It is the why that keeps us going when the times get tough. So if you feel comfortable with your why at this point and your ability to also work smart and hard on that idea, then we can move ahead here. If not, stop the video, take a little time, and start writing out a rough draft of your why, okay? So as we move on, you may be saying to yourself, okay, yeah, maybe I understand my why, but I don't really feel like I'm an entrepreneur. And we hear this a lot at Leap Junction. A lot of people have an idea of what entrepreneurship is in their head, and they think, I'd love to start my own business, but I don't seem like the people out there who are successful business owners. So let's consider a few things first. What does it actually even mean to be an entrepreneur? It's a very interesting question. And there are certain traits, of course, and attitudes that might make some people more suited to running a successful small business than others. You know, what those traits and attitudes are, though, really depends on who you're asking. It also depends on, to a degree, on how you actually define the word entrepreneur. Interestingly enough, there is a debate over the definition of an entrepreneur. Some experts have a wide definition and includes anyone who just works for themselves. Others have a narrow viewpoint, and they suggest that an entrepreneur doesn't just work independently, but also their business involves innovation and leadership. Both are right. But what is right for you? That's what we're trying to determine. You know, we can look up lists like this, characteristics of an entrepreneur. Some business experts suggest that, entrepreneurial drive is innate, a trait acquired at birth, while others believe that anyone can be an entrepreneur. Both are true. Whether a person is born with it or develops it, some individuals also feel that there are a specific, set of characteristics and traits required for successful entrepreneurship. That's the list that you see here in front of you. Things like perseverance and willingness to take initiative and self-reliance and having passion. Those are all, yes, things that you may want to have. But there are also things that you can develop over time. There is no hard and fast rules here. The question that really matters is, does it actually matter if you don't have all of those correct characteristics of an entrepreneur? And I think the answer is no, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you believe in your ability at this point to just take a leap and trust yourself to do good, meaningful work, to take a risk. A simplified and favorite quote that we have is, an entrepreneur is someone who can jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down. What this means is that you have the ability to just think on your feet, and you're more comfortable than others with being uncomfortable, because that's what entrepreneurship really is. It's a lot of hypothesis testing, a lot of thinking on your feet, a lot of moving quickly, and never really being comfortable in the early days of developing a business. What it really means, are you just willing to take a risk? Are you willing to create your own definition of what entrepreneurship is and push your own boundaries? If the answer is yes, then great. But I just want you to keep in mind that there's a key thing here that we have to understand. New entrepreneurs often think that, okay, I'm willing to take the risk, certainly. I think I have the right characteristics, the right traits, and I'm fine with being uncomfortable. And I think I have the best idea, the good idea, right? But it's important to realize that being an entrepreneur and having a business is not just about having a good idea. Typically, less experienced entrepreneurs think that the most important prerequisite to success is that great idea. But more experienced entrepreneurs know that the most important thing is not about who has the great idea, but who is capable of executing that idea and carrying it out. It is the ability to act that makes the difference in a business. And therefore, one of the most important challenges in developing a business is to identify the problems that need solving and to choose which ones we should tackle first so that we can get moving. This is how we approach business coaching at Leap Junction. We help to figure out what are the things you should be focusing on first, and what will it take to get us just moving and start creating some momentum. If you need a bit of help here, some things that I find that this can be, helpful by asking yourself, if you have more than an idea and what it takes to be an entrepreneur, it might be worth considering if you are prepared to also be a smart and hard worker, because that is really what it takes in here too, is also to work smart and to work very hard. So ask yourself if you relate to some of these questions and think about whether they are true for you. Ask yourself, do you have excellent time management? When you enter a room, do you feel comfortable connecting with new people? Do you rarely procrastinate? And do you initiate new work ideas? Do you have a varied skill set and also know when to ask for help? And if you have an idea that maybe just doesn't work out, are you able to change with ease and pivot? And do you have the ability to work for long hours if you're passionate about that work? Those are great questions to ask yourself to really get, take a little temperature of like how you might feel about, the life of an entrepreneur. If you're more of a test person and you really want a full analysis of, whether or not you want a passing fail grade of whether or not you might be an entrepreneur, you can do some of these, self-assessment quizzes. They're kind of like doing personality tests, but they're more from an entrepreneurial lens. These will be linked in your worksheet and on the website as well. So if you want to check these out, they are kind of fun to go through. You might learn some stuff about yourself. So I definitely recommend, take a few minutes and go through it and see what you learn. At Leap, though, I know we covered a lot of how you should feel about entrepreneurship. Do we have these characteristics? Do we have these traits? Are we feeling comfortable being uncomfortable? Really what it comes down to are these three things. This is what we've decided are kind of the basic questions to really decide if entrepreneurship is for you. The first one is, do you want to operate independently and be the person making all the decisions and shouldering all the responsibility in a company? It's a good question to ask because that's what being a business owner means. Some people need more of a cocoonish environment that working as a regular employee can provide. And that is hard to have inside of your own company. When you work for someone else, your bosses make all the management decisions, you do your job and hopefully receive regular wages and benefits in return. Your responsibilities and your boss's expectations are clearly defined. There's no ambiguity. And running your own business is completely different than that. You are the company, and as such, the success and failure of the business depends entirely on you. There is no one to tell you what to do, make decisions for you, and your wage is dependent on your ability to attract customers for your product and service, right? Big difference there. The second question, are you willing to work hard and make sacrifices that starting a small business will entail? I'm just going to put it out there right now. A lot of people, think of this idea of passive income or work-life balance, right? When starting a new company, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of sacrifice. There is no such thing as passive income. So if you're here taking this because you think in a year from now, you can be lying on a beach, doing about 45 minutes of work in a day and you'll be making tons of money, that is not a reality. That is a fallacy that is used by companies that want to market something they're trying to sell to you. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, having a successful company means sacrifice, right? And it's just sacrifice that you have to plan your day around. And then it will become manageable and then you can have work-life balance. As anyone with experience will tell you, there is no 8 to 5 shift when you run your own business, especially during the startup phase, which may last months if you're lucky, but it can also last years, and it's much more typical. You are likely to be, the manager, the worker, the reception person, the payroll clerk, the marketer and salesperson, and whatever else is required of you in the beginning. This means late nights, long hours, and the end of weekends off and 3-week paid vacations. If you have a family, they have to be prepared for the additional demands on your time. The best way to manage that, try to bring them into the business and get them involved if you can. So This is okay if you have a passion for your idea. If you really want to do this, these sacrifices may not seem like a big thing to you. But if they are starting to mount up and say, oh, that doesn't sound like this is right for me, well, then maybe it's a good indication that running your own company might not be right for you. The last question, do you have the self-confidence and self-discipline that will enable you to persevere and build your new enterprise into a success? Few new businesses are overnight successes. It takes hard work, patience, and perseverance to build something that can have repetitive and continuous revenue. Some types of businesses certainly can be profitable in as little as a few months, while others, take years to build up a client base and become successful. Initial setbacks and failures are certainly expected. So you must be able to be confident that it will work out in the end. You have to think like a quarterback. You're going to have setbacks, right? You have to quickly forget that last poor play that you just had and be confident about your next move forward. So it takes confidence. It takes self-discipline to stick on this path as well. This doesn't just happen overnight. You have to have enough discipline to keep moving and keep moving forward, to manage your day well, to understand what you're doing with your time. That will enable you to build success over time. Okay? Now, at the end of the day, it's not up to me or any of these other individuals who've set characteristics and built these quizzes to determine if you're an entrepreneur. You get to decide, right? But we just need to understand that, running a business isn't for the ambivalent. It certainly isn't for the indifferent. You have to really, really want to be your own boss, transform your idea in, your dream, into a reality, market a product and service, and just work really hard. So let's now move into a new section here and take a look at what being an entrepreneur looks like maybe more on a day-to-day basis. Sorry, I'm just going to take a drink here. A good statement to think about is that your days are yours. As an entrepreneur, right? You have the whole day to yourself, but your days are yours. So what do you do with that time, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared for what that means. And you have to be the one who's accountable to yourself. Running a business and being an employee, as we said, are very different. You have to have an entirely different mindset if your new business is going to succeed. Part of it is suddenly just being the boss. You have a whole different set of responsibilities. Remember, success is yours and failure is yours. So you have to be the hardest worker. You have to be the biggest fan, and you have to be prepared to be every department or to ask for help. And if we are asking for help, we need to be willing to pay for it, right? A large part of this is also no longer having what we call a safety net that we once had, right? If you're sick, you can't just call in, right? There's no sick days. Whatever you were going to do still needs to get done, right? There's also no medical, there's no dental, there's no insurance benefits unless you buy them for yourself. And of course, there's no pension unless you build it. But on the flip side, you're the boss, right? And it's hard to beat the appeal of that. No one is ever going to be looking over your shoulder or telling you what to do. No more suffering through the consequences of someone else's bad decisions. And the success is yours to celebrate, right? For anyone that has that entrepreneurial innate drive and mindset, owning your own business, just the idea of it is definitely better than being someone else's employee. You get to be in control. You get to build something from scratch. You get the benefits of helping people and feel like you've done something. You get to live a more flexible lifestyle, right? We still have to work long hours, but we get to determine when and where that actually is. You might get to change the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to change it on a global scale. It could just be the microcosm of you and your family's world, right? But you get to make an impact. Lastly, the one that we're probably thinking of is the money is yours, right? Granted, statistics on business success can seem grim. When we think globally, approximately 50% of businesses only actually survive to the 5-year mark. But with that said, there is certainly much you can do to improve your chance of success and make that money. And in fact, depending on your goals, opening a business might actually be a better financial option than working for an employer. For one, with a business, you're just more likely to earn what you're worth, especially if you're a woman. Instead of earning a fraction of what a man might make in a certain position, a woman gets to charge her value in a business. As the business owner, you also have the benefit of getting to set prices, and along with business tax perks, you could end up making a lot more than you could doing a job for somebody else of something similar. So that pretty much sums it up. Your life is yours, right? Your business is yours. Your day is yours, right? But you have to be realistic about what that looks like. You have to be understanding that you're going to have to manage that time accordingly. So we want you to be realistic, but we want you to be excited about the journey. It's worth it if you're willing to work for it. So enough about you. Let's talk a bit about the types of businesses and types of entrepreneurship that are out there. So what are the differences between some common phrases out there, right? These get tossed around a lot. We talk about small business. Well, this is a huge bucket. It includes everything from mom and pop shops to local small business owners. It can include partnerships, and it can include sole proprietorships, it can include corporations. Generally, if we look at Industry Canada's definition, a small business is any business that has less than 500 employees. So it's a huge bucket, right? Just use it as a catch-all term. Now, there's different versions of small businesses. They can be home-based. Home-based business is pretty common right now, especially since we're in a pandemic at the moment. A home-based business can fit under the category of small business, but the primary factor in this case is that it's run from your home as opposed to an office or another location. But just because a business is run from home doesn't mean it can't compete with the big competitors and larger businesses out there. In fact, many large corporations were started at home in a garage, right? Including Apple and Disney. The next small business form that we look at is the online business. This is an internet-based business, and it can be small, it can be home-based, or even large corporation. Key difference here is that the business is operated primarily online, meaning customers aren't really coming to visit you. The entire business, model happens and is executed in the online space. So this includes companies like Amazon and other e-commerce businesses, bloggers, eBay and Etsy shop owners, and any other business that does the majority of its business online. Inventors, this is my favorite bunch, but the rare bunch. For an inventor to be actually considered an entrepreneur, they need to actually go beyond the idea stage, the creation stage, and build the product and then actually get it to market. That's usually the hard part for the inventor. They make something because they see a gap or they see a need for something, but getting it, to have value in the marketplace is a whole nother thing. A good example of where to see other inventors, if you want to be one, is to start watching shows like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. Lots of inventors come up on there and you can kind of see their story, see their struggles of what they went through. It's a great way to see, what to avoid or what success in that category might look like. We also have the serial entrepreneur. This is a more rarer bunch for, considering most are coming to this workshop to be new entrepreneurs, but the serial entrepreneur might be somebody you want to be one day, because many entrepreneurs, after they start their own company, they get joy out of that phase, the starting and the building of the business, but maybe not in the continued management. So serial entrepreneurs, they build businesses so that they can sell it and launch a new idea. They're continuously, building, managing, selling, and moving on. It's a continuous cycle, hence the serialness of it. They are still considered entrepreneurs because as they're developing and growing the company, they're operating it and assuming risk in the business for the time that they own it. Now, it is very typical that serial entrepreneurs will be juggling several businesses at once, but it has the added bonus of earning them multiple streams of income. Now, if that's something that you'd like to pursue, definitely come and see us and we could talk about what it looks like to live in that world. And we'd love to help you connect and network with individuals who are in that space and doing that, working on multiple things at a time, so you can get an understanding of what the realities of that look like. Lastly is the lifestyle entrepreneur. Now, the idea of lifestyle entrepreneurship isn't new. However, it has gained a lot of popularity recently with the rise of technology, the internet, and the global economy. A lifestyle entrepreneur is one that builds a business that incorporates their interests and passions in order to sustain their life goals. Many in this category are referred to as digital nomads because they often have online businesses that allow them to travel. However, a lifestyle entrepreneur does not have to have travel as a necessary component. The key factor in a lifestyle entrepreneur is that they do what they love. So the business exists to just support their chosen lifestyle. So what do you actually need to know at this point? So you're considering, okay, got this idea. I think I have the traits. What do I have to do to start getting things moving forward? So there are some crucial things that we need to consider in order to move forward wisely with our ideas. This is a great list of questions to ask yourself to start to understand your idea better and start to understand what this business might be a little bit better. First thing is, what are you actually thinking of selling and offering? Who are going to be your customers? So who's going to buy it? How much do you think you might be able to charge for that? Do you think there's a demand for it in the market? Are there, people in the marketplace now? So that's also understanding what is the market potential. So look at the industry. How much is that market possibly worth? What is going to make you unique in the marketplace? So if it's not something completely brand new and competitors exist, how are you different from them? Speaking of your competitors, who the heck are they? And how do you plan on getting the word out about your business and about the unique things about you? So what kind of advertising and promotions might you do? What resources do we actually need to carry out this business? We have this great idea. We understand the industry, but what is it going to take to actually get that idea out to the marketplace and provide your value to your customers? And lastly, what are the costs involved with starting and running a business like this? That's an important one to understand. Therefore, the typical next step as an entrepreneur is to start to create a strong, or in order to create a strong business, is to begin answering these questions through market research. This brings us back to the earlier part of our presentation. Now, we have an entire separate presentation that is about market research. Helps you drill down to the core of your business and really understand, where to go to find some answers. But, there are some things that we need to consider before you meet with us your first time and before we start deep diving into other parts of market research. So maybe this is your first time hearing the phrase, right? So let's get a general understanding of what we mean here. Market research essentially is the process of just gathering and analyzing as much information as possible about your customers, the industry, and your competitors, like we said earlier in the presentation. Before starting your business or when launching a new product and service, you need to determine if there's actually a demand for what you're offering. So conducting market research is an important step in determining your target customers and how best to reach them through your marketing and promotional efforts. It helps us understand our competitors and uncover key industry trends that could affect demand for our products and services. And it can provide you with the data that will help enable you to make informed decisions about your business and help put your business in the best position to succeed. So here are a couple of questions to ask yourself. So for some preliminary, market research, it's a good idea to ask yourself these questions with Google surveys or by actually connecting directly with people who might be your target customers. These are just kind of a rough overview of the questions that we listed earlier. What industry do I operate in? Who are my potential competitors? Who are my customers? And what do I know about them? Things here that we're looking at are, how old are they? What are their income levels? What kind of jobs do they have? Where are they located? What are their interests, hobbies, buying habits, etc.? This is kind of just an intro into a little bit of customer segmentation that we'll go into detail more at a later presentation. How do I actually reach these people? So where do they spend their time? How can I get my message in front of their eyeballs? And what will you actually charge for your product and service? So what does it cost you to make in time and in money and in resources? And what kind of markup are you looking for here in order to make a profit? The next step, once we've done some market research, is begin to develop our plan, right? We have to have a solid business plan or business model canvas also. We use business model canvas a lot at Leap Junction, and we will walk you through the business model canvas in detail in our next module. But we want to talk a little bit about the big business plan and why eventually having a fully fleshed out plan is critical to your success. The first reason why we should have a plan is it allows us to actually test the feasibility of our idea. Writing out the business plan is a great way, other than actually going out and doing it, to test whether your idea for starting a business is valid. In this sense, the business plan becomes your safety net, as we said before. If working through a business plan reveals that your business idea might not be something actually attainable, it will certainly have saved you a great deal of time and money. Fortunately, many prospective new business owners are convinced that their idea for a product or service is a can't miss proposition, regardless of what they learn from their market research. So they don't take the time to do the necessary, question answering and work through a proper business plan. And they just go on to executing, and ultimately it can lead to serious failures. So the more you know about your industry, your customers, the competition, the greater the likelihood that your business will succeed. It helps prove that feasibility. We also do it to give your new business, obviously, the best chance of success. Writing the plan allows you to start to pay attention to the broad operational and financial objectives of your new business, and also the small details, such as budgeting, marketing, and sales planning. The process will ultimately make for a smoother startup period, and it will help to have fewer unforeseen problems as you get the business up and running. So going through the broad strokes and the details helps to reveal anything you may have missed if you weren't to have done this. The worst thing is to have one small thing you miss that leads to a critical mistake down the line that you end up paying for. So make sure you set yourself up for success by having one of these plans. The last one is for those who might need to seek some funding. A lot of new businesses need startup funding and operating capital to get off the ground. And without a well-developed plan, there's often not much of a chance of getting debt financing from established financial institutions like banks, or equity financing from possible outside investors. So it also provides a means to measure your results. We can evaluate with our business plans. A business plan, yes, it is a snapshot in time. We build it, for the time we build it. But in the first, couple of years of your business, a lot changes, a lot grows. There's a lot of, hypothesis testing and proving. So it's a great way to measure, how, based on our projections from this time, and then we look at our results in the future, we get to understand, how well we performed and, what, the results of our hypothesis tests were. So it really becomes a measure for evaluating our results. It also, as I've said, it helps to identify overlooked opportunities. So not only do we hopefully miss, details that were crucial, we also can, going through the process, we can find opportunities. Often it's finding new possible partners, maybe new possible revenue streams, maybe new possible customer segments that we didn't think of, but usually there ends up becoming more opportunity than we realized as we go through this planning process. Lastly, and most importantly, it helps us become more confident by being educated and informed, so we can make better decisions about our businesses. That is very important. Now, business plan, of course, has a pretty standard outline. There's a few kind of different versions out there, and you can look them up. Lots of examples out there. You'll see them in the worksheet that you either have or in the resource add-on document if you're looking to get a great template to get you started. But typically, there's about 9 sections of a business plan. Everything from executive summary, we got business description, market analysis, competitive analysis, sales and marketing plan, ownership and management plan, operating plan, financial plan, and then your supporting documentation. So I'm going to just talk briefly about kind of what goes into these different elements. Because if you wanted to get into deep dive in a plan, it's good to have an understanding of what goes into each section. We're going to do the executive summary last. So the first place that you want to start to go into is describing the actual business itself. So the business description. This is where you provide information about the business you're starting, obviously. But in here, you want to include, very importantly, what problem your product and service actually solves, and in detail, and who the most likely buyer is going to be. You want to give an overview of the industry that your business will be part of. You want to include major trends, perhaps a pestle analysis. You want to make sure you mention the major players or competitors in the industry and the estimated industry sales. This business overview section should also provide a summary of your business's place within the industry, along with your team's expertise, as well as your unique competitive advantage. So this gives a really good kind of best foot forward that shows you understand your industry, you understand your competitors, you understand what you're offering and who might buy it and what this market might be worth, and you understand that you have a team to execute it. The next part is the market analysis. And this is a crucial section of the plan as it helps you identify your best customers or clients. In the market analysis, research, we do research on the primary target market for our product or service. We make sure to include customer segmentation. So if it's B2B or B2C, we're looking at things like psychographics and demographics and geographic areas and behavior statistics. And so there's a lot of segmentation that is going to be different based on your idea. But we want to make sure that it is understood that we have detailed information about our primary, secondary, and maybe even our tertiary customers included here. We need to make sure that it's clear also that our target market's needs, what they are, or that we understand them, and how those needs are being currently met. Your purpose here is to have just thorough knowledge of the people you are planning to sell your goods or services to so that you can make informed predictions about how they might buy. The fourth section is the competitive analysis. In this section, you learn how successful your direct and indirect competitors are in the marketplace with an assessment of their competitive advantage and how you'll set yourself apart from them. Typically doing an analysis, on maybe 10 competitors and doing a SWOT analysis on them is crucial here, and including that in your appendices or exhibits. It's also in this area includes analysis of how you will overcome any entry barriers to your chosen market. You also need to distinguish, your business from the competition, which is especially important in persuading potential funding sources that you'll be able to compete in the actual marketplace. The sales and marketing section offers a detailed explanation of your sales strategy, your pricing plan, your proposed advertising and promotional activities, and your product or services benefits, features, and outcomes. This is where you get to outline what makes you unique. What is your business's unique selling proposition? So describe how you're going to get your goods and services to market and how you're going to persuade people to actually buy them. In the ownership and management plan, you give an outline of your business's legal structure and your management resources. You include your internal management team, if you have one, external management resources, and human resource needs. Include experience and special skills of each person in your management team here. You want to make sure that someone reading this gets a good understanding of what everyone on the team brings to the business. If the goal of your business plan is also to get funding, it's wise to make sure that your management plan includes an external advisory board as a management resource. That's very important. The operating plan gives information on how your business will be run. So this is more of the day-to-day. It provides a description of your business's physical location, if there is one, facilities, equipment, kinds of employees needed, inventory requirements, suppliers, and any other applicable operating details, such as a description of processes as well. Then we have the financial plan. Now, as we know, starting a business is generally about making a profit. So having a solid sense of your current finances, your funding needs, as well as what your projected income might be, is important. In the financial section, make sure to provide a description of your funding requirements, your detailed financial statements, and a financial statement analysis. This part of the business plan is where you present the three main financial documents of any business: the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement. If you are a brand new business, well, then it would be a cash flow projection statement. Okay. Then, of course, we have your appendices and exhibits. So in addition to the sections outlined above, at the end of your business plan, you include any additional information that will help establish your credibility. It's things like your marketing studies or market research, could be photographs of your products, your link to your website, permits that you've acquired. It could be intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, credit histories, resumes from your team, marketing material you've developed, contracts or other legal agreements pertinent to your business, proof of sales. Those are all great things to include. Lastly, we go back to the top, to section 1, the executive summary. So this area appears first in the business plan. It is the section that is usually written last because it is a summary of the entire business plan. It provides an overview of your business, including your mission, your vision, your why, and details about what you offer. It's critical that your executive summary is outstanding, especially if you're seeking funding, because often when you end up in a pile of other business plans, this is the only part that a financial planner or loan officer might actually be reviewing. They're looking for that overview through a huge stack. So make sure you put your best foot forward and put a lot of work on polishing the executive summary so it really represents, the best of your business. If you're looking for resources to help with, doing business planning or maybe templates, the Business Development Bank of Canada website has some great ones. Futurepreneur has a great tool. Tech Alliance has tools. Small Business Center here in London has some great tools. If you're more of a social enterprise or nonprofit model, Pillar Nonprofit has some great tools that you can use. And of course, you can always come and see us. Now, we use a little bit of a different methodology. We use kind of lean business startup methodology using Business Model Canvas, but we help you develop that into a business plan using another tool called Growth Wheel. So please come and see us. Come and see us for advisor sessions. You can also seek out advisors at the Small Business Center. They have coaches that are there to help you as well. Same at Tech Alliance if you're more of a technology-based business. A lot of our organizations work together to support you, and we support each other as well. Okay. Financial planning. So anyone who tells you that starting a business is not about the money is either lying or they just don't have money problems, right? They're already either rich enough or comfortable enough that other people's money doesn't really matter to them more, right? So the question of, how do I get my business making money is usually the main problem that you face while you're in, the startup and early growth phases of your company. The big problem that comes after that is not only just how do I make money, but then how do I keep money coming in when I'm starting out? No matter what kind of business you start, it's going to cost money to get it started and cost money to keep it operating until it actually starts making money. So many people need to find some other source of financing when they start their own business. So where are you likely to get funding from if you need it to get off the ground? Well, the first place you should be looking is at yourself. Look in that mirror or look in your pockets. And I know this can be daunting at first glance, but it is the most important source of business startup funding, and it often gets overlooked for some reason. No, of course, if you're, in financial struggle right now, maybe starting a business at this moment in time is not for you. You should have enough money to support yourself and to support the idea before you can get it off the ground. If you don't have a nest egg or money saved up, well, you can look at things like what property or possessions do you have right now? A lot of us accumulate a lot of junk, right? In your storage units, in your basements, in your attics. What's up there that you can just get rid of? Throw it up on Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, whatever. Maybe it only takes $1,000 to get into this business. You'd be surprised what's lying around your house that you can get rid of really quickly that can get you that startup money. Some people mortgage or remortgage a home, although I do not recommend that. But others usually will seek out, some type of business loan or things like that we'll talk about in just a second. But typically, no one will give you that loan or even give you a grant if you haven't invested in the company yourself. So we need to be willing to put some skin in the game before anybody else is willing to invest in us as well. The next place we go are to, the F network, or friends, family, or fools. And this is typically the second most popular source to get money because these individuals are often willing to provide us with a loan or even sometimes an outright gift to help get your idea off the ground. They're already to likely be pre-sold on the value of you and the business idea to some degree. But a word of caution here: when you do business with friends and family, you invite, an overlapping of relationship demands there, and it can get a little tricky and it can get a little messy. So you need to be prepared. You need to make sure that, expectations are clearly laid out. That if it is a gift, then it is a gift. If it is a loan, then make sure that there's a proper timing as to when it will be paid back. You want to make sure you treat this just like how you would be treating the bank. It's important that there's respect on both ends, and that if you can't meet those demands, that you have clear communication about what is happening. Okay. If you need help in there with navigating that relationship, we have an awesome kind of loan calculator that can help you set terms, based on different scenarios. You can also look at a line of credit. Although I don't recommend this as a sole source of startup money, it is great for helping when you might have a windfall. So a line of credit is definitely essential during your startup phase, depending on the type of business you're running. No matter how careful or detailed you've been in your planning, there are usually unexpected expenses that will come up, or things that you've just underestimated their costs. So having a line of credit available for when it is needed, not to be used to just make outright purchases, just, as a backup, is important, but not great for purchasing capital or startup or using for capital or startup expenses. The fourth area that you're likely to get funding is a business loan from a bank. Term bank, we're talking about traditional lending institutions or credit unions as well, and it's easier now than ever to get a loan for your small business from these traditional sources. That being said, you can't just walk in, tell a loans manager how much you want, and expect to walk out with a nice check. Applying for any business loan is a process, and you need to prepare for it properly. Making sure you have a solid business plan, make sure you have an advisor, making sure you've kind of checked all your boxes, dotted your I's and crossed your T's there, okay? And then there's the online fundraising campaign. These are easy to get going. They're low barrier to entry, things like Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, and many others out there. There's lots of platforms that you can gain access to for free. But these fundraising campaigns can be oversaturated, and you might not get the uptake that you're expecting when you're looking for crowdfunding money. That's not to say that running a successful campaign can happen, but it will take usually some money to put for marketing and getting the word out. So, they're not just, I can do this with no money and I expect a huge uptake. Usually we have to put, funding into promoting our fundraising campaign. And these kind of, all these funding sources, combined are likely to be at different phases of your business growth. Your own pockets is usually for, ideation, validation, early startup. Same with friends and family. The line of credit, the business loan from the bank is when you've proven your business and you're ready to start getting it moving forward. Fundraising campaign as well. Your business model is solid. You're ready to start taking people's money to help with your growth phase. So let's quickly just touch on where you might be unlikely to get funding. The first one we'll mention is angel investors or VCs, venture capitalists. Unless you have a really, really, really good idea, this might be unlikely. I'm sure you might be familiar with shows like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, where people pitch ideas for cuts of their business. However, a lot of the businesses that get on those shows have proven sales, they've proven their hypothesis, they've validated the business model, they've put their own money into the business before they even make it to this point. And they also are most likely to have a business model that is scalable. Not all small businesses or side hustles are scalable business models that an angel investor or a venture capitalist really wants to invest in. They're looking for something that is a good investment, something that's better than putting their money in the stock market, which means that they want something that's going to, give them at least 5 to 10 times their investment back in a short period of time, 2 to 5 to 8 years max, right? They're usually looking for a short-term investment. So they want higher returns over a short period of time. Although, this does happen, we do have people that can get this kind of funding. Make sure you take the cue from shows like Dragon's Den, right? You need to make sure that you're ready to pursue this avenue. You need to have a minimum viable product, some demonstrated sales, some demonstrated success, and have a really great understanding of how this business can grow and scale. So that brings us to other sources of funding. These are things that we're looking at in the form of either grants or grant loan hybrids or competitions or accelerators. So, we have our business loans from banks or credit unions, but it's also a good idea to mention, business related or government sponsored organizations. So the BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, organizations like Futurepreneur, Rise, Impact Loan with Goodwill, Verge, and many other kind of grants are out there. You just got to find them and connect with these organizations. With Futurepreneur and BDC, there's programs where you can apply for a lower interest loan that you might get with the bank with different kind of payback periods. So it's just a more attractive business loan. You're more likely to get it if you're working with their advisors as well. There's also just kind of grants that you can apply into on kind of a revolving basis. We have the government portal in our worksheet that you can check out. You click it, put in all the details about your business, and you can see what might be available from our provincial or federal government for your business at this moment in time, both in the way of grants, but also many other resources that might be available to you as well. You can also look to accelerators. So there's business accelerator programs across the country. At Leap Junction, we run a accelerator program called Leap In. That one comes with $5,000 of funding for your business idea. Propel at Western has one, as well as Western Entrepreneurship as well. And there's many others, both on campus ones at colleges and universities. However, there's other ones that are privately run, and they're virtual and physical ones as well. So look and see what's out there. We have business plan challenges as well that exist all over the world that you can apply into. Once you built your sweet business plan, why not put it out there and see if it's worthy of winning some money? We have one coming up in April, every April, Libero Business Plan Challenge in partnership with the Kinlan School of Business at Fanshawe College. This opportunity to win a couple $1,000s for having a great business plan and a great pitch. Speaking of pitches, there's also opportunity with pitch competitions that are happening all the time, all over the place. At Leap, we run them typically every semester. We have right now my virtual pitch competition that's open right now. You do a video pitch. We also have our trampoline pitch competitions in person when we can be back on campus. So, but these are just small examples of opportunities to earn money for yourself. That if you do a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, you might see there's lots of these things happening all over the place. Set a Google alert, business pitch competition. Business funding, small business grants. Put some Google alerts out there and see what comes. Every day you can get emails of what might be available, what you might be able to apply for. And if you're getting ready to fill out the application or fill out the grant form or doing your business plan, make sure you come and see us. We'll make sure that application puts your best foot forward. Finally, we're going to get into the last component of leaping into business. We're going to talk just around, this is more legal structure or organizational structure of your business and what you have to do to actually officially start that company. The first thing is typically you got to register your name, right? So in Canada, registering your business name, it's different depending on your province or territory. And it's also different based on the company structure, whether you're a partnership or a sole proprietorship or a corporation, nonprofit, or charity can look a bit different. Now, registering your business, you can use your owner's legal name as well. So if you're a creative professional, you may want to register not a company name, but your actual personal name. We can talk about that in a second. But it is important to note that business registration is a legal requirement in Canada, not a choice. So when do you actually need to register a business name? Well, if you're a corporation, every province, every territory. If you're a partnership, yes, except for in Newfoundland, Labrador. If you're a sole proprietorship using your legal name, so mine, David Ouellette, then no, you don't have to register the business name. If you're a sole proprietorship using another name, yes, except again in Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, using your legal name as a business name, let's just quickly touch on this. And if this doesn't apply to you, skip ahead. So if your business is a sole proprietorship and you wish to operate under your own name, the name, again, has to be your exact legal name. You cannot add anything to the name, such as Inc. or Co. or partners, nor can you add anything that would give potential customer, client, or clients a clue about what you do. So if, for example, you decided to call your business something like John Smith's Consulting Services, then you would have to register your business name, okay? Even if you're running it as a sole proprietorship. So the big question here that I get, and this is often for, musicians and authors, consultants, graphic artists, photographers, is it a good idea? Is what they usually ask. So I always say, if by yourself you're providing a unique service, then using your own name makes sense if you are the brand. If your business is in another industry, such as manufacturing, and you intend eventually to expand the business by maybe incorporating one day, or possibly bringing in partners, possibly bringing in employees, or offering multiple different revenue streams, then it's probably not a good idea. Okay? So registering the actual business. So in Canada, once you've chosen your form of business ownership, such as sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or the others we mentioned earlier, you have to register your business by going through the process of registering with the appropriate provincial authority. The link is in the resource document, so you can go and read more details on that. The link is also there when you're ready to go and actually register. So the basic procedure to register the business name and register the business for a sole proprietorship or partnership is pretty simple. You go to the link below, you'll first conduct a name search. This is where, you have the business name in mind, you conduct your name search because you may not want to register a name that's already registered. It is not illegal, however, to do so. There can be the same business name, you just might not want to do so. So maybe even if you haven't done a name search on Google first, you may want to do that first before we commit to registering our name. So you conduct the name search, see what pops up, you fill out a registration form, and then you pay your fee, which is $65 at the moment. You then receive documentation. So you will receive what's called a master business license. This license is then what allows you to open up a business bank account and also allows you to register for your taxation number. The procedure to register a business name for a corporation or a cooperative or a charity or nonprofit is much more involved. Typically, Cole's notes of it are that you have to conduct a name search, and then you will get a nuance report. There is a fee for that in doing a cooperation or cooperative, or corporation or cooperative. And if you wish to set up a corporation, you will also have to prepare articles of incorporation. You can do them yourself. The forms are available from the government website. However, they are very in-depth. You may want to consult a professional, a lawyer, or a service provider to help you with preparing your articles of incorporation. You'll have to write a cover letter, and you'll have to fill out your incorporation application form and pay your fee along with that. So because of the variations here, registering a corporation can vary in cost. It depends. If you do it all yourself, you may be able to get around $250. If you're looking for help, depending on who you're working with, if it's an outside provider or an online provider, it might be around $500. But if you're looking to bring in a legal consultant, bring in a lawyer, you're looking for anywhere from $500 to $1,500. So just some different considerations there. If you want more on how to register a corporation, a cooperative, a nonprofit, or charity, the links are provided in the resource document as well. Now, another consideration when we're thinking about the legal components of registering, so we register our company with the province and legal authorities, we also have to think about things we have to do municipally, so locally. Sometimes, depending on our business, we may need permits and we may need licenses. Not for every business. We also may need to check the zoning as well. So depending if you have a home-based business, there may be some zoning issues, and especially if you're opening a physical location, you may want to check with that. So we usually check with our local authorities on that. So the City of London would be who you'd want to go to. You can also use a great tool like Canada's BizPal. You just put in your business and different parameters about what you're doing, and it will populate what permits and licenses you might need and where to get those permits and licenses. So depending on what kind of business you're starting, this may or may not apply to you, but it's a good idea in the beginning to check for what licenses and permits you might need. Now, a little bit on HST and GST. In most cases, unless your new small business's gross income stays under $30,000 for 4 consecutive quarters, you will have to register for GST and HST. Now, a note here on this. There is a small supplier exemption that does exist, but it doesn't apply to all businesses. It's up to you to find out if it applies to you or not. Taxi and limousine services, for instance, always have to register for GST, HST, regardless. So day one, they have to register. So make sure you check if a small supplier exemption actually applies to you, okay? And I definitely recommend here that regardless of whether or not you think you're going to make $30,000 in your first 4 months, you still consult with an accountant. Make sure you get yourself set up from this financial perspective right away. You want to understand, what are the advantages and disadvantages that you could take advantage of by registering right off the hop. So even if you're not taking much money to start, you may want to register because of, input tax credits, which are basically your way of getting back the tax your business has paid out on purchases for business use. It's important to note, however, that once you do register and have a taxation number as a business, you then legally are obligated to charge HST from your customers. Because if you don't, you're going to have to pay it back no matter what. So don't forget about that. So legal and financial advice. So when you are ready, any corporate tax information, company structure information should come from lawyers and accountants. We are more professionals in helping with maybe business strategy and getting set up for success, but certainly we recommend you get in touch with lawyers and accountants to talk about, your company structure and legal liabilities you might be opening yourself up to, as well as, how to make sure your money is working best for you in your business. You can work with the Small Business Center and access a service they have called Access to Professionals, where you can get one-on-one appointments with a lawyer, an accountant, or a human resource professional. They're half-hour appointments. They do them once a month. The link to it is in our resource document. They are free right now. However, it's 1 p.m. typically. It's time for lunch. Sorry, that was my Google talking to me there. Typically, they do cost $20 for a half-hour session, but they're free right now, as I mentioned. So with that, holy moly, I know that was a lot of info to go through, and it's a lot right up front before you even started considering, your offerings or even your business strategy. But don't sweat it. That's why we're here. Leap is here to help answer all other questions that may have come up during this presentation. So what is next? What do you have to do next? So before you actually do come and see us, we recommend that if you haven't, to go out there and do a bit of market research for your idea. Use the resources that come with this video to get to know the world of entrepreneurship and try to work through the associated worksheet. There's some good stuff in there that can really help get you started. Make sure that if you do have an idea fleshed out right now, start sharing it. You can share it with us, but I recommend make sure you start telling people about it and getting feedback right away. Take it with a grain of salt, but start networking and sharing your ideas, right? We don't need to worry about someone stealing it at this point. It's better to share and get feedback as early as possible. Then book an appointment with us. You're on the website right now, most likely. So just click over. If you haven't met with us yet, you're going to look for the new intake appointment. Come see us for a 30-minute to an hour session, and let's figure out how we can help you and get you moving forward. Lastly, most importantly at this point, is make sure to believe in your business, right? You're going to have some passion, and that's going to get you moving forward. So have belief in your idea. Now, a very brief recap, right? Remember what we said here today. It takes more than just a good idea to have a business that is successful. You'll need a clear business model with facts and research to back it up. You need a desire and determination to push through the hard times and make it actually happen. And you'll certainly need the money and resources to support your growth and yourself. And other than that, the sky really is the limit. So with that, I thank you for sitting through this, hour and bit presentation, and I hope to see you soon. So make sure to book with us. And if you haven't yet, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where you can gain access to tons of awesome resources and funding opportunities. You can see stories of clients that have worked with us in the past and get to know us a little bit better. All right. So take care. Good luck with your research, and I hope to see you soon.